Hello! Hi. Hello and welcome to the second episode of Fundie Tuesday, Fundamental Tuesday number 2, where we are going to actually step into Dota 2. So last kind of recap for last week. Also, if you guys haven't seen the Chef Goldblum, reason why I said hi, go to YouTube, search in Chef Goldblum. It's an amazing video. It was pretty funny. I hope you guys are all having a rocking Tuesday today. I am enjoying my Tuesday. And now that I'm home from work, I am totally stoked to not only share in some knowledge of Dota 2 with you guys, but also play some Dota 2 later tonight. So after this broadcast, Fundamental Tuesday, I'll probably be taking a quick break and then coming back for some more Dota 2 Learn by Playing, and maybe joined with some friends and teammates, we shall see. So for now though, let's go ahead and get into it. So recap last week, small recap. Basically we went over is a whole abstract overview of what Dota 2 was. I went over the map, initial sense of the gameplay and everything, and what you are looking to do, your mission for winning a game in Dota 2. Pretty simple. So you get in and you just try to take the other enemy team down, kill their ancient, and kill them as many times as you can in the process. So now today, since we have there's Dota 2. Since we have that out of the way, we're going to actually be looking into so I got this fundamental overview of what I'm supposed to be doing in the game. Now, how do I actually do that? Because when you actually get into the game, it's a lot harder than just being like, alright, 5v5, here's the Dota 2 map, you're all set to go and do it, and then all of a sudden the next thing you're knowing, you're being called a feeder because you're dying. All of a sudden you're like, I don't even know what a feeder is. I'm not feeding anyone, I'm just running around. But you're dying a lot, and you're not really playing maybe to... They're like, you're a support, and you're like, I don't even know what a support is. And they're like, you need a ward, and you're like, I don't even know what a ward is. So to help with that, we're actually step into the game, go over some of the initial starting items that can help you during the initial phases of the game. I don't think we'll get too farther than, say, maybe the first, maybe mid-game, seeing how time allows and how long I talk and discuss random stuff. So with that ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the different phases of Dota. So you'll typically hear people talk about Dota in 3 phases. Yes, 3 phases. So being early game, mid game, late game. Makes sense, right? 3 phases: early, mid, late. Okay, whatever. So, and then you typically break them down like, okay, well, what's the early phase, what's the mid phase, and what's the late phase? And then also like, how do you know when you're in the early phase, or how do you know when the early phase is over, or early game is over, and you're into the mid game, or into the mid phase? It's different from game to game. You'll pick it up as you go along, but typically what you'll see is, I've heard other casters say this, and I myself typically agree with this. The first 20 minutes of the game, we're to take an average game of 60 minutes, and we're to break it down to 3 parts. In the first 20 minutes, we call the early game. It's you're just in the game. It's when you're in your lane assignments. This obviously the carriers are trying to farm. We'll go into that. The supports are supporting, pulling, pushing. You're basically just in your suggested lanes, going back and forth and all that good jazz and everything. Ganks can obviously be going on in the early game as well, but you're much more focused on just your current lane, trying to win your lane. Obviously, we'll go into what is winning your lane today. The next part, so let's say after 20 minutes has expired, it's not like, oh, 20 minutes expired, oh, we're instantly in the mid game, let's go ahead. Kind of, yes, but not really. It all kind of meshes together, and the more and more you play, the more you'll be onto it. But you can just kind of like use that as a barrier, or I guess as a time increment for right now. As it's 20 minutes, you're like, okay, boom, I'm in the mid game, and now things are starting to change. So what does the mid game mean? So basically, the mid game is the time when ganks are more prevalent. Now that depends. Obviously, I'm just going to go ahead and reply to this. Oh yes, okay. Anyways, so mid game obviously is the 20 to 40 minutes. So you have your carries are getting a little bit more farm. Obviously, you know, they're going to be farming all throughout the game, and your supports are now moving around. It's a lot more mobile of a game, whereas, you know, the laning phase, which is what I really call the early game, the mid game is more into the team structure, and it's a lot more where, you know, sight's always important, map control is always important. We'll get into that. It's very, very important for the mid game because you're going to be doing a lot of moving around. You're going to be doing a lot of coordination with your team, entering into team battles, really trying to push. So, you know, in the early game, obviously you're pushing towers and everything, and maybe you push your lane, you know, all to the tier 2 towers of the other team, and you're doing great, and you're like, boom, yeah, I'm out of the laning phase, and that's when you start going into maybe the mid game mindset. But let's say as a team, it's past the 20-minute mark, and you're okay, going into mid game. Now it's time to push. You know, it obviously depends on the makeup of your team, but now you're trying to get that map control. You're trying to establish that dominance. You're trying to get more and more of those kills, more and more of those team fights, because your heroes have gotten time to get a little farm, get a little of an item base. Your carry has gotten a little stronger. Your carry is always going to be farming, your hard carry at least. But maybe you have like a mid-game carry or gankers, and now you're going in like a 4-man team while he's still you know, switching back and forth between lanes or in the jungle and getting his farm. So now you're going more, again, team phase mid-game. And then so you go through that in the mid-game, and then all of a sudden you get 20 to 40 minutes mid-game. You get to the 40-minute mark, and you're like, okay, mentally, I am now in the late game. Okay, so late game, that's where the game wraps up. If the game hasn't ended in the laning phase, if it hasn't ended in the mid game, late game is where it's going to end. You're like, okay, you know, 40 minutes to 60 minutes is when we say late game is. Really, it's just 40 minutes on. If the game goes longer than 60 minutes, it's just late game. It's not like over late game or something ridiculous like that. So you're in the late game. You're trying to finish the game. It's going to be, this is where really your carries are shining, because you're at the point now where a lot of, like, even your supports probably have enough money to have gotten some items. So your supports have become more versatile as far as, you know, the disables and the things they're doing. It's really all about your team composition and how you engage a team battle as a team, or maybe you're doing smoke ganks, or you're trying to pick people off or whatever, because, you know, you're still pushing, obviously, if there's towers up, because if the game's not over, you're still pushing. So you're still pushing, and maybe, you know, you're trying, you know, different split push strategies, or the other team is doing split push strategies. You're catching them off balance, knocking down their tower, you know, ganking one, and then now it's in a 5v4 advantage to your advantage, and that's when you push. All those different types of strategies. So basically, you're working as a team, trying to end the game. Again, your carries are where your massive damage is coming from. They're the ones that are carrying your team at the end, and then your supports are really just now supporting the carry, getting off disables, whether it be, you know, pushing those heals, making it so you don't take damage, and all of that good nonsense. And then, of course, with the late game, the game is over when the better of the teams, because better of the team will win, is the one that actually takes the ancient and ends the game. So those are your phases of the game: early, mid, late game. How you play, how your character, how your hero plays in each of those phases will matter and differ. So it is important to be kind of aware of those phases. It's kind of hard to, I know, when you're like a new player and you're just going in, and really all you're trying to do is just stay alive and you're like, what, mid game? I don't even care. I just don't want to die anymore. So, you know, don't knock yourself too hard if it's 30 minutes in, you're like, oh shoot, I forgot it's mid game now. It'll start flowing naturally and all that stuff, but just something to be aware, and also organizing with your team, being like, hey guys, we're definitely at the late game now. Hopefully your carry is farmed by then. It's time to start making a move, or, you know, you're still in the laning phase and it's the mid game and you're getting ganked, and you're like, yeah, okay, maybe we should be out of the laning phase. We should be out of the early game and start working together as a team. So that'll come in. First things first. So that's the phases of the game. We'll basically be touching on the early game laning phase, as I call it, and first. So first off, let's go ahead and look. So again, I know I repeated this, or I told you guys about this last week, but I definitely cannot give this tab right up here, the Learn tab, enough credit. So especially for new beginners, because this game has such a high learning curve and it can be so complex and offer a lot of different things. You'll still be learning this game after 1,000 games. Learn tab. Quickest and easiest way to get adjusted with this game is learning the heroes, learning what they do, learning the roles. So if you click on a hero, it'll tell you the roles. So it's it'll tell you ranged or melee, and it'll also tell you the role, give you an overview, tell you what their skills are, what they do. You can watch videos on it and everything like that, and it's really good. It'll tell you their starting attributes and then the attributes they gain every level and everything. So you can tell this is a heavy agility character, gaining a lot of agility every turn. So Learn tab. Use it. You can also go into the items tab and go over to items. We'll talk about a little bit about items today, but this way you can kind of go through it at a leisurely standpoint and go over items and take a look at it. And then also builds. We'll be talking about this as we get in. You can browse hero builds for helping you build your hero as you play. So let's go ahead and step into it. So now we are going to actually go ahead. I'm going to play a practice with bots game. So when you're starting off, even if you have played this game a bunch, I still play with bots. Why? Okay, because I've played every hero. I haven't played every hero a lot, but I've played every hero, but I'm not good at every hero. Obviously playing a hero 1 to 5 times doesn't make you know that hero really or good at that hero. I can't give you a number, like if you've played a hero 300 times, then you know that hero. It's just going to depend on your ability. You're always going to be learning with that hero, facing different sets of enemies or counter heroes and everything like that, or different sets of teammates as well. So no real number, but the more and more you play that hero, the more and more you will actually get to know him. But going back into this for the bots, the reason I still play with bots is because, like right now, say I'm working on Storm Spirit. I haven't played Storm Spirit in so long, and I've rarely played Storm Spirit, and I want to get more acquainted with Storm Spirit because Storm Spirit's a great number 2 laner, solo mid laner, and great ganker and carry and everything like that, and also very durable, whatever, all that stuff. But so want to practice him, want to get to know him, so I'm going to start with bots first because that way I can kind of get a feel for him in an environment that suits it. If you go into, I pretty much guarantee you, if you go into like an all-pick game or random draft game, if you go into an all-pick game and you play a hero that this is the first time playing or you haven't played in who knows how long, you might not have a bad time. Your team's probably going to have a bad time. They're going to call you all sorts of names. Not that that really matters, and hopefully you have thick skin, because you'll probably need it sometimes in Dota 2. But why put the extra stress on yourself, extra stress on your teams? Go into a bot game, you can learn nice and easily through there, just under you. And the bots, really all they're going to say is, hey, missing bottom, missing mid, go on bounty hunter, all that stuff. So you don't have to deal with anything like that. So bot games, always use bot games. You can adjust the difficulty down here. I'm actually going to make them easy for today since we're going to be doing a lot of talking and showcasing everything. So start your team where I like the Radiant, although Dire is fun too. So go ahead and start the game, and then boom, start going to go ahead and load into the game. So as I did last show, is basically I'm going to be using Hero Keeper of the Light, also known as Izalar. Okay, so you can actually, when you go ahead and you search for these keepers, I just searched up here and typed in his name and everything, and it brought me to him. But you can scroll through the heroes and everything. And what's really nice is, if you're wondering, like, okay, what is Huskar? Maybe you haven't, clicked on him in the learning tab and everything. You can look here. Okay, he's a carry, initiator, durable. Okay, so carry, so he's going to be doing damage at the end game. Now, it's a rating of 1 to 3 stars, so he's not a strong carry, and people have definitely talked about this. He's not a very strong carry, but he can do damage and be a damage dealer. Initiator, he can initiate fights. Fights. His life break ability allows him to jump in. We can read about that later, but basically it allows him to jump in and initiate fights, and he's durable, meaning he has a heal. He's a strength-based hero, so he can be able to take a number of hits compared to, say, an agility-based hero who doesn't who specs more into agility than into, like, say, strength type items. So, and remember, strength gives you HP and HP regen. So that's what you can see from here. So I'm going to be doing Keeper of the Light. Zalor, and as you can see, Zalor is an intelligence hero.
Places, everyone.
So mainly supports, nukers, and all that kind of jazz are in our intelligence, and so he's gonna be a nuker. Yeah, he's got this ability right here, Illuminate. He's also a support. He's a level 2 support, so a good support, and he's also a good lane support. So I kind of lump those into the same category, but lane support, obviously with the laning phase, is what's going to make it a great lane support. Support can come on later in the game, being mainly a support for the team. Now, we've entered this game. Okay, so you start in your fountain, right? So we're in this fountain, and we're just chilling, and we're like, okay, I have my hero, now what do I do from here? Well, I guess, everyone's kind of moving out to their lanes. So remember, these are the 3 lanes that we talked about last time. So maybe I'll just move out to my lanes. Well, not quite yet. You want to get your starting items. So remember, when you start with 603 gold. Obviously, if you random, which I don't recommend doing when you're first learning the game, if you're randoming, you're going to start with actually 200 more gold and 803. And then if you repick a hero, because say you pick something wrong or whatnot, and you're going back and you're picking another hero, if you repick a hero, I'm going to actually pause it there. If you repick a hero, you'll start with less gold. So typically, you're just going to start with 603 gold, and that is what you're going to use to buy your starting items, okay? So when we go back into this, now we might actually have to start the game a number of times just because I'm going to be doing a whole lot of talking and everything like that. So don't worry, because I also want to show you how picking a courier and all that stuff. So we're going back into the game. Now if we take a look at this, now this is a courier. Yes, a courier. Now what does a courier do? Courier is basically, as the name implies, it carries items and ferries them to and from all across the map. So you'll typically see this courier just kind of chilling out in the fountain, and then as you can put, it has item slots as well, and you can put items on it that you buy in your fountain, and you can ship them to you. Because remember, if you are outside the fountain and you are in a lane and you buy an item, it goes into your stash, not into your inventory directly. So instead of having to come all the way back here and pick up that item, you can have your courier, which typically is in the fountain unless it's delivering an item, say to someone else, pick up that item and then send it to you, so you never have to leave the lane. This is important because remember, actually we'll get into this, when you're in the lane, you're with creeps, which give you your experience, which give you your farm, your money, and you're protecting your tower and pushing and everything like that. So ideally, you want to be in the lane and as well as in the game as much as you can. Every time you're low on health or you need to go pick up an item, every time you have to go back to the fountain, you can look, you have to walk all the way back and then, or to the fountain, and then go all the way back out, unless you're getting into TPs, which we'll go into later. But still, the courier is much more advantageous because it allows you to stay in that lane, keep getting that farm, keep supporting your carries if you're support, as well as keep pushing that lane so you can win that lane, knock down that first tier tower, get some 200 gold for your team, and boom, rocking pretty good. So that is what the courier is for. We'll go over that. So now, obviously, if you play in a bot game, not so much obviously, if you play in a bot game, that courier is going to be bought for you automatically most of the times because your bots will pick either supports or buy it anyways. Because, actually, interesting note here, why do bots always get couriers? Probably because it is a fundamental part of Dota 2. Yes, the courier is a fundamental part of Dota 2. So you want to make sure you have a courier for your team. So when you're going into a public matchmaking game, if everyone has just gone to their lanes and you're a support or a ganker, mainly if you're a support and there's not been a courier bought for your team, please buy a courier. Always check that. People for some reason hate buying couriers because they want to use their money on more important stuff. Because typically when you're in a public matchmaking game, it's always about the self, usually about the self, not always about the self, but people are usually always thinking about themselves and are like, someone else is going to ward, someone else is going to get the courier, and all the fundamental stuff that needs to happen to have a better play experience and to really actually, be dominant in Dota 2. So think again, what's the number one thing that separates, I've read this, number one thing that separates a pro player from a public player is that a pro player will do what needs to be done for the team, not necessarily what they feel they need to do that best for them. Okay, I mean, obviously, you can argue doing what's best for you is also best for the team, but people don't always look at it that way, and they're like, no, I'm not going to get a courier, I'm going to get an extra item that's going to not really help me much more than a courier could help the whole team. So think not only of yourself, but think of the team. So how do we get a courier? So if you go into the shop, you have these two tabs up here. Upgrades are all upgraded stuff. It's all items that require basic items to forge together. Okay, it also requires certain other upgrade items, but generally all these items require basic items to build upon. And basic items you can think of as your building blocks of your upgrade items. So if you're wanting a courier is a basic item. If you just buy the courier, you don't have to buy anything else to build it. And actually, as you can see in the default builds, is we have a courier there. Now, you have your items here, which lists all items, and then you also have a build slot, which when you're initially starting, that build slot will give you, just programmed by Steam, will give you or Valve, I should rather say, will give you a default build structure or list of items that is good for this particular hero. Now we'll go a little bit more into detail from that, but for the most part, the default build is good. It will give you items like, I said, Azalar is a support type hero, so it's going to give me a courier, which is a support type. Supports should be getting the courier, and then it gives me wards, observer wards, which we'll go into, which are support type items. So it's not a bad. And then mechanism, support type item, and all these other abilities are mainly support type items to help your team and everything. So default build is good. Now at the top you'll see the starting items. Typically what goes in the starting items is everything that you can buy with your 603 gold and what you should buy with your 603 gold. Many of those items will be used either to help heal you or assist you and your laning partner in the lane, or will give you initial stat boost that can be built into a upgraded item later on down the road, which will give you actually better benefits and everything like that. So starting items are always great. So as you can see, going back to the courier is a standard starting item for this particular character, which is a support, Azalar. So all you have to do, remember, if you left click an item, it brings it up in here. So if you left click it, if you left click any basic item, all it's going to show is the basic item, and then actually what it will show is if it can go into if it can be combined with other items into a upgraded item or a more complex item, it will show you the complex items that it can go into above it. But again, just in the middle, it will show you just the item. Okay, so that's the item. Now if you right click that item, it will, the game is paused, so I'm not actually buying it, but as you can see here, the cash sound, it will buy that item. When you buy that item and the game is a pause, you'll buy that item, it will go into your inventory. Now, key point for buying a courier is that when you first buy that courier, remember it goes into an item slot right here, and then you next have to right click it or left click it to actually use it and have your courier pop out. That is important because if you forget to do that and you run into your lane, then you're going to pop out your courier, or you have to pop out your courier back at base, and it's going to have to either walk back or you're going to have to walk back to get your courier out here in base. So remember to do that before you leave your lane. Number one mistake commonly made. So there's your courier. Now if the courier is already bought, don't buy two couriers. Don't buy two. One courier only, one courier to rule them all. If there's already another courier, if someone has already bought another courier, great. Then you can use your money on other things, and it's not a bad thing. Maybe get an extra ward, maybe get an extra support item to help your team, or whatever is listed in your starting items. Just get something else. So courier is already bought. Now what you can do is there's two stages to a courier. There's the courier, which as you can see is just a courier that's on 4 legs, or 2 legs, depending on what type of courier they have. And it walks along just like a normal hero along the ground. So its pathing is the same as, you know, it has to take paths, like it can't go over this or over here. It has to take like a path through trees and all that stuff, through like, you know, a walkable path, just like a hero has to do. Okay, there is a second tier of courier, is the flying courier. So if you see here under the basics tab, flying courier is never usually in the default build because it's an upgraded item. Flying courier is right underneath the courier. It's 220 gold, and if you right click that, it will upgrade your courier to a flying courier, and then all of a sudden that courier can now fly over obstacles, which is actually much more advantageous. Don't just settle for a courier, always upgrade to a flying courier when you can, because it will make delivering items faster and easier. Really, that's it. Now, flying courier, you must have a regular courier to use a flying courier. So if you buy a flying courier and you don't have a regular courier, sell it and get a regular courier first, or get a regular courier. Yeah, always get a flying courier after your regular courier. Now remember, actually not really remember, interesting to note, I'll go ahead and start this game. Unpause it from here. If you mess up on an item, before I continue with the curve, if you mess up on an item you bought, like, oh, I don't want to get that. There is, as you can see in the bottom right hand corner right there, counting down at 5 seconds, there is a, now you can go ahead and you can sell it. There is a, what you call it, like a safety zone, or I don't know, like a grace period. Bam, that's what I was looking for. There's a grace period after you buy an item for a certain number of seconds, for about 10 seconds, where you can sell that item back for no lost money. So as you can see, basically, like if I buy this, now if I were to regularly just like, and I can still sell this back, you know, 6, 5, 4, I made a mistake, I want to sell this back, I can still send that sell that back for the same price I bought it for. So basically nothing gained, nothing lost. This is important because after that grace period goes away, the item sells for half of its value, or half of its combined value. Maybe a little more, a little less. They might have changed it, I forget. But anyways, I always think of it as half value. When you hover over it, it'll tell you what the sell value is, but think of it as maybe a little bit less than half value, or half value itself. Probably should check that out. That's okay. So if you make a mistake, just sell it back right away, and under that 10-second grace period, and it'll be fine. So again, going back into here though, so we have our courier. So I'm gonna go ahead and right click, boom, buys a flying courier. Now you can see the courier is obviously changed because of the flying courier. So like last time, so that's a courier. Always make sure you have a courier. Now for your guy, I remember I always assign him, I click on him, control 1 assigns him to control group 2. I typically then click on the courier and control 2 to assign him to control group 2. And what that allows me to do is if I double tap 1, it goes ahead and focuses on my hero, like so. And if I double tap 2, it focuses on the courier. And that way I can easily switch back and forth between the courier and my guy, so I can know where the courier is and I can know where my guy is. And then, you know, I can select my courier. So yeah, someone has already selected the courier. They bought some stuff onto the courier, and now that courier is being delivered. If you look in the bottom right, it will tell you where the courier is going. That courier is being delivered to Luna, so it's flying to Luna. It will deliver the items into Luna, and then it will fly back to base. Super, super cool, super useful. Now let's go back to the rest of the starting items because I need to buy starting items because this game is beginning. So that's the courier and a long shot. Craziness. Remember, always get the regular courier first and then upgrade to the flying courier as you go time. You know, sometimes it might happen that you get the courier first and then you're the actual one that buys the courier second, or the flying courier second. You know, typically you'll have more than one support and someone will get the regular courier and then someone will get the flying courier. That doesn't always happen, so be prepared for it. You might be the only support in the game, and be ready to get the courier initially, and then as you can, get that 220 gold later, get the flying courier. Okay, so going back into the game now. So let's get the rest of my starting items. So my rest of the starting items, which I'm going to go over, is a Tango, Gauntlets of Strength, a Healing Salve, and an Iron Branch. Okay, so this Iron Branch, it just gives me +1 on all attributes. Might be like, that's kind of lame. I'm going to start going to my lane. That's kind of lame, because +1 attributes is nothing. And actually, speaking of lanes, as I go into my lanes, remember what we talked about, there's typically one person in the mid lane, and then 2 people on the side lanes. So the reason I chose the bottom lane is because there's 1 person in it, so I need to be that second person, as there's already 2 people in this top lane over here. Now, back to the starting item. So Iron Branch, +1 all attributes. Might not seem like a lot, but again, in the beginning of the game, it is a lot. Remember, you get about like 19 hit points every point in strength. So one attribute or 1 point of attributes in every attribute. That's an extra 19 HP at the start, and then as well as some extra armor and some extra mana and mana regen. Okay, so not a bad thing. Gauntlets of Strength, +3 strength, so giving me even more HP to start with, so I'm not super, low on health and everything. And then Tango and Healing Salve. So we're going to actually stop here and go a little bit about Tangos and Healing Salves. So Tango and Healing Salves are the two typical starting items that are support items for supporting you when you first get into the laning phase, or when you're first playing your character. Really, you only see these in the laning phase of the early game. And typically, probably after, I would say, about 10 minutes into the game, you might not see them really be buying them ever again. It depends. It just really goes into it. But I'll go ahead and explain why and what they do. So Tango, basically, think of these things. So the Tango and the Healing Salve. And actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and unpause this. I'm going to have my creator actually buy. So there's another thing. There's a Clarity Potion, which is another, beginner type one. You won't see this on Keeper of the Light because he has an ability that refreshes his mana or restores his mana. But I just want to illustrate this one. So these are the three typical, I will call support items for early game. The Tango, basically what it does is it allows you, it's an active use. All of these are active use items. The Tango, what happens is eat a tree, consume a tree to restore HP over time, comes with 3 charges. 3 charges meaning you have 3 Tangos, so you can use them 3 times. So the duration is 16 seconds, and health restored is 115. So it'll restore 115 health points over those 16 seconds. Basically how you use this is you either click it and then click on a tree, or if you have it bound, like I have it bounded to C, just hit C, click on a tree, your character will walk over, eat a tree, and then now you have this on your buff, is you're gaining HP every second for the 16 seconds, and you'll be healing yourself. Obviously I'm at full health, so I really shouldn't be using it, but just to illustrate, so there you go, and it'll show you, and then when it runs out, boom, you've regained all the hit points. Interesting to note about a Tango is that it is the only support item, compared to the Clarity Potion, which we'll get into next, and the Health Potion that we'll get into next. It is the only one of the 3 that you can use in combat. And what I mean by this is that you can use it, and if you get hit by an enemy person or an enemy creep, it doesn't stop, it stays on. So you are guaranteed to have that thing on for the full 16 seconds and get the full 115 HP from it. Now the next 2 items, that is not the case. So the Clarity Potion, so I'm going to go ahead and spec it to an ability. And I'm going to go ahead and use this ability just randomly. I'm just going to shoot it randomly so I can use up some mana. So I use up some mana. Now I want to get some mana back, obviously, because I used up really just half my mana in that one spell. So what Clarity Potion does, restore mana over time. If the user is attacked, the effect is lost. So it's 30 seconds in order to gain 100 points of mana, okay? Now to use this item, again, same thing, left click or actually click the button. And then after that, you're gonna have to click on either yourself. You can use this on allied heroes. You can't use it on enemy heroes, but you can use it on allied heroes. So if you actually see that one of your allied people is low on health, then you can use that on them and help them to regain mana. This can be helpful if, say, you're a support and you've been really good about managing your mana and everything like that, and your carry in that lane has been using a lot of spells and you guys are close to a gank. And maybe if he just had a little more mana, he could get that stun off and you guys could finish it, okay? So instead of just being like, this is my item, I'm not going to use it on you, both of you using it on him, use it on him, have him get that mana, have him get that kill, and then it benefits both of you. So don't be stingy with your items, especially if you're a support. Half the time, I would say not even half the time, 80% of the time, I'm not buying this stuff so that I can use it. I'm buying this stuff so that I have another 3 inventory slots or 6 inventory slots, depending on how many stuff I'm doing. It's usually 2 inventory slots, or 2 inventory slots of those extra support items that I'm using to supplement my carry. so that, you know, my carry can buy, he'll buy some of that stuff himself, but he'll buy a lot of other stuff, fill his rest of his inventory with stuff that will help him farm. And then me as a support, I want to be like, yo bro, that's cool, I got your back. I'm going to use some inventory slots of my own to buy, you know, support items so that I can heal you, give you back mana, and we can stay in this game together, be ganking fools, owning our lane, and it's very beneficial for both of you, and it's quite, you know, satisfactory and endearing, and just a show of camaraderie. It's amazing. Do it. The think for yourselfers don't get very far. Okay, so you can use it on other people. I obviously, you know, going back into this game, as we can see, my carry is doing an excellent job of mana use, or not mana use, and so really doesn't need it. So I'm going to use actually one more spell here. Maybe get a shot off on this Windrunner with it. Boom, got a shot off on this Windrunner. Now I need mana, so I'm going to use that myself. And then boom. Now remember, this is going to take 30 seconds for me to get that 100 mana back, okay? So if I go in, and I'm like, yeah, and I click on this guy, the creeps attack me, boom, they hit me. As you can see, the buff is gone. I'm no longer getting that mana. So be careful about that, okay? Make sure you know if you're using that, don't get hit. Usually use it in a safe spot where you're behind your creeps and the other creeps aren't attacking you and everything, okay? So that is the clarity potion. So Tango, eat a tree, doesn't matter. I'm gonna eat one right now. Doesn't matter if I get hit. You know, if I go ahead and I get hit by these creeps, as you can see, it's still staying on. I'm still taking damage though, so probably don't want to be tanking them with just a Tango. The next thing is a healing salve. So I've taken a lot of damage, and this tree isn't healing me all that much. Okay, so it'll heal me enough, and I still have some health that I want to get back. All right, so the healing salve works exactly like the clarity potion, but instead of regaining mana over time, you're going to be regaining health. So let's go ahead and take a look at that in action. You hit that and you click on yourself. Another little note is if you do have this bound on a key like I do with just G, if you just double tap G, it will automatically use it on yourself. So quick shortcut there if you want to use an item on yourself. As you can see there, it healed me up and it's on. Now I didn't show you, same thing with the clarity potion though. If I would have gotten hit before that, it would have stopped that potion from completing. And it didn't, you know, it healed me for more health than I was missing, so obviously it healed me in half the time. So that is the initial starting items, and those are your active use items. Everything else like these are both passive items. They just give you a stat boost. And then what you could do is, you know, go ahead and start building up into your items. Now the next item you usually want to do is, here's a side shop. We went over the side shops in the other episode, but here's a side shop in this bottom lane. The next thing you want to do is you want to, as early as you can, you know, while still getting your courier, still getting the flying courier and everything like that, is you want to get boots of speed. Why do you want to get boots of speed? Because everyone else is going to be getting boots of speed early on too. As you can see, these guys already all, except for Dazzle, already have their boots of speed. This gives you a 50% movement speed bonus, and it's very, very vital to the early parts of the games because if people, you know, allows you to get away early, it allows you to actually chase down heroes. So now I'm moving faster than Dazzle. If we actually wanted to do a gank, we could go ahead and I can move in and make sure I'm staying in range and everything and move faster than him. So boots of speed are always a good item to get early on in the game. You will go ahead, and if I left click those boots of speed, you can see the options that the boots of speed will build into. Now all these again will depend on you know, your different items and your different build set you're going into. As you can see with the tranquil boots right here, you can see that these boots build into a tranquil boots, and actually my build says that that is the actual boot that I'm going to be building into. So if I left click the tranquil boots, it'll show me below all the items that go ahead and that I need to build into it to build those tranquil boots. So I'm going to go ahead and purchase the Ring of Protection, so it right clicks it, okay? And if you go ahead and you close your shop, like you click out and you go back in, it will keep that there as so that you can readily just click the shop, buy your item, and all of that stuff, and then combine it later to create your boots. Another good tip is if you want, left click and hold and drag this item down to this area right here, and boom, it will put all of the items that you need to buy to make that item down in that box. And that way you don't have to open up the shop to get back into it. When you're ready, you can just right click that item when you have enough money, and you'll automatically buy that item. So a good little shortcut there for all you guys, okay? As you can see, you know, why isn't it showing the rest of it? Let me run away. So this is why boots of speed is important. I'm running away from these fools, and I'm running faster. So getting out of there. Now some of you guys might be asking, okay, so I have these boots of speed. Now here it lists 3 items, but here it only lists 1 item. Well, as you can see, there's a check mark already for these items, meaning I've already purchased them and I already have them. This will only list the items that you still need to get, okay? So if I were actually go to an upgrade, and I were to say like Orchid and Malevolence, so I were to bring that down to here, it lists everything I need to actually buy that item. But I don't want to get that right now, I want to get this item. So I just need to get this Ring of Regen, which will happen next. Now, as you can see, I want to stay in this lane, and I have an item in my stash, and because, you know, I bought an item out in the field, and I need to get that item. So I'm going to select 2, which is my courier. I could double click back, but you can just select courier. Since it's in the fountain, you can use it to grab all. It's now in the courier's inventory. And then you actually want to hit this. I have it bound to F, but it's the second to the last one. It's called transfer items. Click that, and now as you can see, the courier is on its way to me. And then it will deliver its item. There is also the option, this R ability right here, Speed Burst, only available to the flying courier. If you click that, boom! This courier is now moving at 520 move speed, and it is delivering that item at a super galloping, flying, I guess, fast pace, and it is delivering it right to me. And you actually notice, right as it delivers it to me, it's smart enough to know, hey, I need to go back home. I need to get out of there. And that's cool, because I don't want that little birdie to die. It is attackable. The enemy can kill it, and I don't want it to die, because it goes on a cooldown to where, you know, it's dead, just like a hero, and it has to revive after that cooldown. So make sure your courier stays safe and goes back to base. It will go back to base automatically as long as you use that F button. If you right-click the hero, right-click the courier to you, like a regular person, it will just sit there. So make sure you know that. Now, I have enough money to get this last item. I'm gonna go ahead and get it. I can buy this item at the side shop. It is available in the side shop, so I'm gonna buy it. Boom! It automatically completes your item. So just to let you know, that is once, interesting notes, once all of the sub items for a complex item, I'll call it, are you know, you move them from your stash or from the courier into your inventory, they will automatically combine. You don't have to do some random crafting or junk like that. It automatically combine, and boom, you're good to go. Okay, so good stuff there. So that is buying your starting items, what the starting items are, and then combining your starting items later, and also getting your boots into a more complex items. And then as you can see here, you can read about tranquil boots, all these different kinds of boots. We can go into a whole hour-long episode about what boots to use. But basically these boots, think of it as like a health regen. I can click it and it'll regen my health over time for a small mana cost. Okay, obviously I'm at full health, so it's not doing much at all. So we're at 12 minutes now. Oh my goodness, we are halfway through the laning phase. Okay, so laning phase, obviously we're still pushing. You know, I'm still trying to push this tower and everything like that. Push with these creeps. And I'm trying to get this tower, okay? So, interesting to note here, when you get to your laning phase, it is kind of vital to, you know, depending on what kind of hero you are. I mean, obviously if you're a carry and everything like that, if you're a melee character, you're going to be up in the creeps, the opposing creeps' grill, hitting them, but you kind of want to stay behind your creeps, because I'm not behind my creeps right now. These creeps are going to attack me, and it's going to do damage, and I don't need to take that damage, because I can have my creeps tank while I sit back, and then just get the last hits and everything like that. So remember, when you get the last hit on a creep that, you know, kills the creep, remember that's, oh man, I'm gonna die here, but that's okay, because I'm gonna, yes, okay, so I died there. This guy's obviously out-leveled me, because I've been talking a bunch. But anyways, if you get that last hit on the creep, you want to be getting those last hits mainly when you're the carry. When you're support, let your carry in the lane get those last hits, because he's the one that's going to be needing the farm, like we talked about last time with that role, and he's going to be the one needing to get all of, you know, the increased experience and the increased farm. So he's going to be the one that's need those last hits. Okay, so I went ahead in that game. I'm going to go back in real quick just so we can kind of do a faster you know, show of like in real time basically of getting all those items and everything like that, because a big long explanation, going actually longer than I was thinking it would go, but a quick recap of everything. So when you get in, courier is important, so make sure you have the courier. I wanted to go into wards today, but that's going to have to be for next episode, and actually be fine because it'll go into the support role as well. Courier though is vital for every game. You know, if I would argue, even if you're a carry, if you're the only carry, don't do it. Probably don't do it. But, you know, make your supports do it. But if, you know, there's other carries and you're like, say, the third carry, and everyone else has gone out to their lanes and no one has bought the courier, buy the courier. You know, just take a bite of bullet for your team. You know, you shouldn't have done it. Your other support should have done it. But whatever. Make sure you have that courier. And then if you're the only support, or if you're another support that didn't get the first courier, upgrade it to a flying courier as soon as you can. Starting items, you'll get a lot of just basic stat boost items that will be used to build up into complex items later. And then your support items, like those 3 initial support items I talked about, you have your tangos, which is the eating the tree ones. That can be used. That's a guaranteed 115 life points healed over 16 seconds. So even if you take damage, you don't have to worry about that, about not getting that HP or losing it. Next thing after that is your clarity potion, which will give you mana over time. But remember, that is a non-combative one, so don't get hit. Otherwise, you will lose the effect of that. So, and also you'll notice that like it shows a effect around you, which is visually noticeable. So the other enemy team, if they see that, they'll be like, oh, he's trying to get mana. I don't want him to get mana because I don't want him to stun me again and possibly kill me. So they might actually come in and try to hit you with it. So stay back in a safe range and everything. Last one is the health potion. Same thing as the clarity potion. But instead of refilling your mana over time, it's gonna refill your health over time. And same thing there. If you get hit in combat, or if you're in combat, if you get hit, it's gonna stop the effect, and you won't be getting that health back. And the same thing, there's a visual indicator that you are being healed by it, and the enemy team will look for that and try to, because they want to keep you at low health, because the lower health you are, allows them to harass you further, and allows them to potentially get a gank off and kill you, or force you to have to walk all the way back to your fountain and then walk all the way back, which, as you know, takes time, which is time you're out of the lane, you're not getting experience, and you're not getting farm or items, and the opposing team is staying in there and pushing harder and potentially getting more damage and killing your tower sooner than you kill their tower. So that's where you want to stay. So that was all the items. Now let's go ahead and do another game. And we'll go over this in real time to show you guys all this stuff. And then we're probably just going to end there. Got about 13 minutes left, and we'll see how long this takes. So Keeper of the Light. I'm going to go ahead and pick Keeper. And I'm going to go ahead and play. Although we'll see if it we have a minute here. So I'm actually the first one here, so I'm actually going to go ahead and buy the courier. So this is what I was talking about. I bought the courier, but it's still in my inventory. Okay. Now if I walk away, this courier spawns right here, so you want to make sure it spawns here. Now as you can see, look, cool, that Chaos Knight purchased the flying courier. That's super cool. So we have a flying courier from the start. So that's why you want to make sure you have your courier right here in the fountain, because it starts in the fountain. If you're out here way in the boonies, you're going to have to send your courier all the way back before people can really use it. Okay? Then I'm going to buy the rest of my starting items. Get here. I still have some money left over. And this iron branch I'm actually going to use to build into a magic wand. So I'm going to drag that magic wand down here. And to see, I can still buy another item. So I'm going to buy it. And there we go. Now I'm going to head off into my lane. So remember, 2 people top, it looks like already. 1 person mid. So I'm going to go down here. Chaos Knight is a carry. I am a support, so I'm going to be supporting him. Now what that means, kind of hinted on it, like I said, told you, is carry is going to be the one that's going to want to be the one that gets the farm. So I'm going to be leaving the last hits for him to take. And what that means is that when the creep starts getting low on health, I'm not going to hit it anymore, because I run the risk of getting the last hit or messing him up on his timing on getting that last hit. So I might hit some creeps down, and then when they're about half health, I'm going to go ahead and stop hitting them and hit another creep. Or what I can be doing as a lane support is I can go ahead and be harassing, which is basically attacking the enemy team. And especially since I am ranged, I have a good advantage in doing that, because then I can attack the enemy team and causing damage on them, and making them scared and not wanting to get in close to the creep range. So the creeps are going to draw a battle line, and the melee, not so much melees, because there are ranged carries. The ranged are going to be trying to get the last hits, and I'm going to be, just kind of, I have this nice, range that I can use to harass, which is putting damage on him, allowing him not to be go uncontested, or for the most part go uncontested against the here and with his last hits. Now what I could be doing too is when your creeps get to a certain amount of low health, you can go ahead and attack them. And right there, I killed my own creep, which is good. That's called a deny, or denying creeps is good, because it doesn't allow them to get the last hit and get increased experience, or get the money from it, but it also doesn't allow them to get the full experience of killing that creep. So right now I'm just denying creeps and then, you know, harassing the enemy team. Interesting thing to note, when you do right click an enemy hero, it automatically aggroes the opposing creeps. So what that means is the opposing creeps are going to turn their attention and focus onto you and come running for you and put damage on you. Okay, that's important to notice because I've seen a lot of people. It's typical, people don't notice that, is they'll sit here and they'll right click this hero and they don't notice that now all of these creeps are now attacking him, and he's attacking his hero, and he's taking a lot of damage, and he's taking more damage than damage he's doing to the opposing team. So be careful of that. If you want to get off that aggro, just run back. The creeps will stop attacking you and slowly attack your creep wave. So what you can do to make sure, because if you just right click, your person's going to run up and attack, and then these heroes will attack you, is you can right click towards the hero, see how the creeps aren't attacking me yet, and then hit the hero. Now obviously I just sent myself in to die because I was trying to show an example. Oh, and I died. So you obviously don't want to send yourself in too far because then you'll die like that. But just as an example to note. Oh, something I do want to go over is the TP scroll, because TP scroll is the #1 thing that you should have. So TP scroll costs 135 gold, and I have the money to buy it. It is down here. I'm just going to go ahead and pause right there. The TP scroll is down here. It is always down here. You cannot remove it. You cannot add it or anything like that. The TP scroll is always down in that corner. Why? Because the TP scroll is probably the most fundamental thing in Dota 2 to have on your person at all times. Now, it's not a starting item, so you don't have to have a TP scroll when you're going out initially into your lane like we were doing. But now that I've died, or now that I have the money, it is important to get the TP scroll. You can buy the TP scroll from the fountain shops and the side shops, okay? So as soon as you can, typically you might see pro players, it might be the second or third item they get after their starting items is the TP scroll. Why? Because it allows you to TP to any of your towers. You can TP to any of your towers. You can TP back to base. You can TP back out to, you know, this front tower, which is what I'm going to use it for. And it's essential. It's essential because it allows you to get back into the fight like I'm going to use it immediately without having to run all that distance of the lane, as well as if you get into a bad start, or say you're being pushed and you've taken a lot of damage and you're trying to run away and they're chasing you, you can like hide behind trees or seclude yourself where they don't get attacked, and then TP out back to your base and, you know, regen your mana, regen your health at a quicker pace, and then get back into the game. Okay, so TP scrolls, second or third item, great things. The reason why they're a great early game too is because in the early game you're gonna have all of your tier 1 towers, so this allows you to teleport straight into the battle at this tower at here. Whereas if you're missing this tower, like say you're missing this tower, and say these guys were fighting up here, you'd have to TP here and then walk all the way up. Whereas now you can TP here, and it's a short distance right up into this battle to support your team and all like that. So if you're support, even if you're carry, get that TP scroll. I'm gonna go ahead and get it right now so I can get into this battle. So as you can see, I'm gonna buy this TP scroll. Again, same thing, use, and then click near the tower, and it's going to get me into this battle at a much quicker rate instead of me walking back to this lane. And now I'm back supporting my guy. I'm going to go ahead and give him mana. So now I'm supporting my team. Get this deny right here. So remember, like typically I'll say like a ranged character, you kind of want to stay behind your creeps, because I could be up here hitting the creeps, but I'm close to this guy now. So I just, you know, want to I like the creeps as my buffer zone.
By your leave.
You know, unless you're pushing and harassing and making an actual attempt for the gank, I usually like to stay behind my creeps. Get this last hit maybe? Nope. So mistime that. So last hits and denies, I mean, something obviously you want to work on. So right now I'm just leaving that last hit for my guy, kind of trying to walk up. Don't want to walk up too far because I died that last time, so I know it's not good for me to walk up. So I'm just going to walk up, get a hit off, run back, aggro that creep. It's going to run back until he de-aggroes, run back up, get another hit off, and then run back. Oh, going off, so all that stuff. Now it can be tricky with this hero, and we'll go over this later. I can go into this, they can't see through the trees, and I can go ahead and unleash a nice little stealth thing, take off some damage right there, refill my mana, and all that good jazz. So right here in the side shop, I'm gonna go ahead and buy another TP. I have the money for it, and it has a minute cooldown from when you use it, but it's already up. Actually, a minute and 5 seconds, I guess. It's already up. So just to illustrate this, say top. I'm like top, and they're like, "Wait, we need help!" Boom, instantly, bam! I'm teleporting there. Now I'm here. Now I'm in the fight. Now I'm gonna go behind these trees. Maybe set up a gank. We'll see what happens. They don't see me. They don't know what's going on. Maybe they do. He's setting up something. And then, boom, there we go. And, oh, almost, yes, see, we got a gank. Look at that. TP'd in, able to get a gank. Gonna give Tiny some more mana so he can do some more stuff. And boom. So that is the beauty of a TP. And now, look, I have some more money again for TP. I can buy TP, 32-second cooldown. So maybe I'll stay in this lane for right now. Stay in this lane. I'll just kind of support, you know, here. I typically don't want to stay in this tri-lane for a while, because the more heroes there are, the more, you know, when you kill a creep, it gives a certain amount of experience and split. So it's just like killing a hero. So if you have one hero here, they're going to get more experience than 3 heroes here. As well as, you know, 2 heroes will get more experience than 3 heroes here. So my TP is now up. I can teleport again. So now I'm going to teleport back down bottom. Boom. Look at that. Amazing. Beautiful. I'm everywhere. I'm supporting. I'm doing all of that. Now I'm going to go ahead and, you know, call it there for the game. Kind of running out of time. But actually really good chance. Glad that I got to showcase the TP. And actually it worked out. So, you know, I shouldn't act so surprised. TP, you know, works out. Like you can see there, I TP'd in. Wasn't even really planning on getting. I was like joking. I was like, oh, maybe we'll get a gank. And we got a gank. It was beautiful. So TPs are beautiful ways to set up a gank. Beautiful back into the action if you just died and stuff like that. So you don't have to run all the way back. And also they can be used. Didn't show this, illustrate this example, but you'll see it a lot of time with the pros. And they're really, really, really good about doing it. Is using the TP if you're in trouble. You know, hide in some trees or stuff like that, and then TP out before they can kill you. And then you can, you know, you're back at base and they didn't get that kill off on you. Now, interesting to note with that strategy though is if you get stunned, because TP is a channeled ability, if you get stunned while you're channeling that TP, it will cancel it and then you're out of luck. So that's why you want to hide and be wary of your surroundings and everything like that. So there's a step into the Dota game. We went over starting items, we went over courier, which is important, we went over TP, which is very, very important. We went over, you know, we already went over kind of lanes last time. We went over the different phases of laning. Really just kind of took a delve into the laning phase. So, you know, I was playing a support type character, which I recommend is a nice entryway into Dota, playing that type of character first. So play a support character. Go and Zalor is a great recommendation too. Go with, you know, your carry. So I was going like the bottom lane, which is the safe lane for Radiant side with my carry. It doesn't really matter, you know, you might be in a public game and someone else's, those two go there. Go into, you know, the other off lane then that has the one person and support that person, you know. Like I was saying, you know, support is, I'm not getting the last hits, so I'm leaving those for my carries. I'm just weakening enemy, opposing creeps, harassing enemies as I can while still staying safe, not taking a lot of damage, and then denying my own creeps and getting the last hits on my own creeps. Now remember, your own creeps have to be below a certain amount of health before you can attack them. And anyways, you're going to be waiting for them to be so low that you can hit them in one hit anyways. So you'll know when that is. So that takes about timing. We'll get into that later when we get into the carried game. So that's an intro into the Dota, step into Dota. Actually went over items as well, buying your starting items as well as using those items into, or building those items into complex items that have, you know, ingredients and everything like that, and as well as using a quick buy feature, dragging that item down to the bottom right to go ahead and have those items listed out right there so you can quickly buy it as you need it. And throwing another tip out for you, a lot of tips I know, but another pro tip is if you're about to die, you might want to use that gold up, because you do lose gold when you die. You lose unreliable gold. We'll talk about that later, but you lose gold when you die. And so if you have, you know, gold that you want to use, or if you have an item that you could just buy, and if you were to die, you would lose that gold and you can no longer get that item. It's a waste of gold. So you could buy that item quickly right there with that quick buy before you die, and then when you die, who cares, you know, that you lost, you know, maybe 16 gold was all that was left over. It's better than losing, you know, all 816 of it, or 200. You want to lose all 816 of it, but like say 200 of it and everything. So that's why you want to, you know, quick buy is good. So threw a lot of different stuff at you guys. This, again, trying to cram as much as I can into Dota. So, you know, it's kind of actually an example of the steep learning curve of it all, is that, you know, we've really only played the game for about 12 minutes in, you know, the past 2 episodes at a time, and there was a lot to learn. Oh my goodness, this is a dark screen. I'm gonna go ahead and make a copy of this. But you know, that's why it can be such a high skill, not so much, well, it is a high skill game, but it has a high learning curve. This game has such a high learning curve for intro characters, or introductory people, or new players, because you know, of all the stuff they have to go through, all the heroes that you have to learn, all the different abilities. Oh my goodness, so there's items you have to add on top of that. There's different lanes, as far as just knowing in general the purpose of the game is to kill the enemy here, the enemy ancient and everything like that. So from this, what I can tell you, very, very simple, is, you know, with all the stuff packed, you know, hopefully you keep coming back to this video and you keep learning and picking up on those tips in the future and everything like that. But for this video, let me end with this, is that basically taking away is, make sure you have a courier, make sure you have TPs when you can, because they are very useful, as we saw. And then, you know your role. You know if you're a supporter or carry, go into the lane that, you know, needs another person and everything like that. And, you know, last hit if you're a carry, support, you know, your carry with your starting items as you can. And then just, you know, there's your list of starting items and everything like that for going to the lane. So courier, TP, starting items, go into that lane, and then stay safe in that lane. Use those creeps to keep to create a barrier. You know, stay by your tower. If you got a bad gut feeling, play safer. You know, it's always better to play safer in the beginning. If people call you pansies, don't even listen to them, because if you were out there in the mix of it and you're getting killed, they would just call you a feeder and other bad names. So you're gonna get called a name whatever you do. Better play safe than sorry. As you get a more and more feel for the game, you'll start picking up when you can attack, when it's not good to attack, and all that stuff. So that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Next week is going to be a huge concentration on support. So playing a support, we're going to be going into the main 3 roles that I talked about in the first Dota 1. The Dota, or Fundie Tuesday, is carry, support, you know, and then initiator, tank. I'm going to be going over support next week with Zalor, Keeper of the Light, because there are a few things that you should be concentrating. I know I kind of went into like supports, like how you should be allowing your carry to farm, but there's way more into that. And basically, what we'll be getting into is number one thing is warding with that support, and as well as getting support items and watching the mini map and everything like that. So hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned some stuff. Play some Dota, have some fun. And actually, I will leave you with this tip as we go. So it's not just about playing Dota. I know I've said this a lot. Playing Dota is great. It's the #1 way to learn. But when you play, be critical of yourself. You know, as soon as you end a game, tell yourself 3 things that you think you could have done better in that game, and say 3 things that you think you felt you did really good during that game. Because the more you do that, and the more you concentrate on like certain little tiny things like that, is what really going to change your Dota experience. And right now, they might just be abstract things, like things I need to do better next game. Not die 15 times in the first 10 minutes. Yeah, that'd be a good one. Okay, but you know, and then as you progress, it might be more fine-tuned things, like I need to have, as soon as that ward is up, that initial ward is up at 6 minutes, I need to have another ward down right in that lane. You know, things like that. So play Dota. Make a top 3 list, top 3 things you did good at, top 3 things you could improve at every game you play, just quickly in your head. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have great fun. I can't even talk anymore. It's been too long. Oh, I also just checked my mic to make sure I wasn't on mute that whole entire time, because that would have really just destroyed me inside. Wasn't on mute, so hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I'll see you guys next week, as well as not Funday Thursday, Random Thursdays this Thursday, in which we'll be doing a drinking game. Should be a lot of fun. So come and enjoy that. Play Dota.